Okay, without any further ado, Eric Eisenhammer.
Thank you. So I'm glad to be here. I always really like coming to the Sutter Buttes Tea Party. And you probably know me from usually talking to you all about energy. And I just before I get started, I'm here today to talk to you about the Neighborhood Legislature, but I do have a little bit of good news when it comes to energy. Our state and our government and Governor Jerry Brown are, they do so many horrible things when it comes to gas prices and energy and driving costs through the roof and killing our jobs, but they did do one good thing recently. How many of you all heard about this $3 billion subsidy they wanted to give to electric cars? They wanted to spend $3 billion, and this is when they were trying to tell us that they didn't have enough money because of they didn't have enough money for the roads. That's why they just raised our gas taxes, because supposedly they're broke and they don't have money for roads. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, why don't we give $3 billion to help people buy electric cars? You know who buys electric cars generally? 75% or 2/3, one of the two, make over $100,000 a year. And the vast majority, like 95% of them, live in either the Bay Area or LA. So none of them, live here. They live down there, they live in the Bay Area. So basically, you would think all the Bernie people would be really mad about this. It's a subsidy for millionaires and billionaires, for the wealthy elite, which it is. So I wish they would have done something. But for what it's worth, people were outraged about this. People called their representatives. Assemblyman Gallagher spoke out about it. And in the state capitol on Friday, they announced that they're not going to move forward with it for now. Yeah. So a little bit of good news. We don't get that much here in California. So we gotta take the victories when we can. So that I just wanted to let you know about that. But the main reason I'm here today is to talk to you all about the Neighborhood Legislature for a few minutes. Neighborhood Legislature is a proposal by John Cox, who's one of the Republican candidates for governor, the leading Republican candidate for governor. How many of you have heard of John? Good. A lot of people are starting to hear about John. And John is passionate about reform and about ending corruption. He doesn't have to run for governor. He doesn't have to put anything on the ballot. He's not trying to advance his career or something like that. He's already successful, and if he wanted to, he could just play golf. But what he's decided to do is he's decided to run for governor, and he's decided to propose the Neighborhood Legislature. And the Neighborhood Legislature, let me pass out a few brochures. Let me keep one so I can sound like I'm educated. You're about to get a brochure on the Neighborhood Legislature, and basically the problem that it seeks to address. And I'm from California. I've lived in California my whole life, so I know that there's a lot of problems, but I didn't really realize that this one was one of them, because it's just, I don't know, like sometimes you think that what goes on around you, it is what it is, it's what you see all the time, so you think that it's normal unless somebody tells you it's not. But take a look at this chart. This is on the inside fold of the brochure. This is a comparison of California's state legislature and our level of representation with other states. So back in the day, back when our state wasn't so populated, it wasn't nearly like this. But as we've gone, yeah, I know. Some of you are looking at it like, and it's mind-blowing. And that was my reaction too. I had to look at it and examine it for myself before I really realized that, well, wait a minute, something really is wrong here. The thing that's wrong, and when you think about it, it really makes sense, is that our districts are massive population-wise in terms of the number of people who each assembly member or senator represents. So typical assembly member, it probably varies a couple thousand, but they all represent about 500,000 people each. Typical senator represents 1 million people each. So the guy who represents me, I live in Placer, also represents people who live in El Dorado and all the way up to Modoc. So everything between, in fact, who's your state senator here? I think that it's different. Nielsen. Okay. Nielsen was my state senator. They changed the lines at some point. He was actually my senator at one time. Mine is Gaines. So Gaines's district goes all the way up from El Dorado County all the way to Modoc. I'm not sure exactly Nielsen's, but it's really big too. So we've got these legislators representing these massive districts, and what that has caused in practical purposes is that they don't have time for people like you and me, because there's 500,000 of us, or there's 1 million of us. So who winds up getting the power and the influence? It winds up being the special interests. It winds up being wealthy people, lobbyists, their donors. People like Elon Musk, for example, the thing that I just started with, the Tesla subsidy bill. He's worth billions and billions of dollars. He's gotten $5 billion in subsidies. So sometimes I think that I don't know if we're really living in a representative democracy or an oligarchy, because the power of people like Elon Musk and Tom Steyer is so tremendous. They spend huge amounts of money. Do you know there was an incident in the Capitol once where Tom Steyer came to town? And Tom Steyer, let me just back up a second. How many of you know who Tom Steyer is? Okay, a lot of you don't. So Tom Steyer is very wealthy. He's a billionaire. He made his money in investing in Indonesian coal and some things like that. And then he decided that now he wanted to be a big environmentalist, and global warming was his thing. So he decided to become a champion of global warming and the environment. He spent tons of money to elect candidates who agree with him, and even on the Democratic side, he spent a lot of money trying to, for example, there was a city council somewhere in Oregon or Washington, where the city council, they were Democrats. Tom Steyer is a Democrat too. But these folks were Democrats. They were union Democrats. They were affiliated with one of the big industrial unions. And what they were getting ready to do is they were getting ready to approve new port facilities so that coal could be exported from their town. They were really excited about it. It's going to create a lot of jobs, going to grow the economy. So Tom Steyer came in and spent a ridiculous amount of money getting all of these people voted out of office and getting a bunch of environmentalists elected who killed the plan. So that's Tom Steyer. That's how powerful he is. So he came to town once. He's from the Bay Area. And they literally shut down the meetings and the business they were doing at the state capitol. They adjourned. They decided to adjourn temporarily so that, and this is something that they announced that Darrell Steinberg, when he was leader, he's like, they're like, yeah, we need to adjourn temporarily. We need to go across the street, and then we'll come back in a couple hours. So they literally adjourned for a couple hours and met with this green billionaire to talk about funding and talk about his opinions on the bills they were going to go back and vote on. And then they came back a couple hours later. That's wrong. We need to do something about that. So the neighborhood legislature is designed to take the really big districts and split them up into really small ones. It also cuts the legislature's budget. It cuts their pay. So there'd still be 120 people serving in the Capitol as a committee, but there'd be a lot more people back home, and they would all have a vote too. So the people back home, they would work as volunteers. The people in the Capitol, now they get paid about $120,000 a year. This cuts their pay to about $80,000 a year. And they've also got tons of staff members. You know, if you ever go downtown to the Capitol, you know, yeah, okay, so some of you are nodding your heads. You've seen them. They're everywhere. You know, in fact, so I worked in the Capitol for a year. And we used to joke about the people who walk around, you know, around and round and round the Capitol. I don't know if any of you have noticed that, but there's these people who they just they're working. They're not people from somewhere else who came to exercise. They have badges, but they walk round and round the Capitol and they chat about like their personal business and they're getting their exercise in. And you know, we used to joke, we're like, who are these people and what is their job? What are they supposed to be doing? But as we all know, they're not doing that much. They're not that effective. They're not. Then again, I don't know that we want them to be effective. Like I was having a conversation with one of my friends about our government, and you know, my side was I was like, well, they're not effective. They're not doing a good job. Like they're not, you know, they're not getting anything done. And he was like, bro, I don't think you want them to be effective. And he had a good point. So the neighborhood legislature would lay off 1,000 of those people who work at the Capitol, and it would, and then they could go and get some productive jobs of some kinds. And according to the legislative analyst, and you know how they're biased, so you can't. I mean, a lot of times with these measures, even if it does something good, they're going to say it does something horrible. But even according to them, this will save us all $100 million. So that's literally on this petition at the very top. Saves us all $100 million. So even they had to acknowledge that it saves taxpayers money. So that is pretty much, in short, the neighborhood legislature and what it does. It is in the signature gathering phase right now. We've gotten over 500,000 signatures. We're trying to really pick up our volunteer signature gathering in these last couple of months. We have 500,000 signatures. I think we need like 550,000, and we still have 2 months to go. So we're in a really good place. But as you know, the folks at the elections office, they're going to find every excuse they can to disqualify as many signatures as possible. So we're trying to get over 800,000 signatures. That's the goal. We want to get so many signatures that we know for sure, without a doubt, that this is going to make the ballot. So I've brought some petitions here for you to sign, and I'll pass them around in a minute. You know, feel free to look at it for yourself. The 100 million is on there last I checked, unless they magically changed when they're in my truck. Oh yeah, no, my truck didn't do anything to them. 100 million annually, still there. I'm going to pass these around momentarily. I did some of them I wrote Yuba on top, some of them I wrote Sutter on top. Obviously, you know what to do if you live in Yuba County. These are the Yuba ones. And then if you live in Sutter County, I have a few for you. Cool. And one more thing I want to share that's actually kind of important, just because it's important for us to actually succeed and make it on the ballot, is that this is John's proposal. John's the backer of it. What John is offering is he's offering community groups like the Sutter Tea Party, like your church youth group, your church men's group, your Bible study group, your Republican club, your RWF club, anything like that. He's offering groups $1 a signature if you will gather signatures. So that could be as easy as, you have a meeting with like 50 people, pass around the petitions, and you can get people to sign it. That's a way to raise $50. Or if you've got like a group of really enthusiastic people and you guys want to go outside Walmart or what have you and gather signatures that way, you might be able to raise a little bit more. So that's a way for the campaign to help out groups in the community, and it's also a way for you to help us because we're trying to get 800-something thousand signatures. So I think with that, I think that's it. So
Any questions?
yes. Okay, good question. Can you all hear me if I just talk? Okay, all right, cool. So the question was, how do we break up the neighborhood? James Gallagher, she said, has 500,000 people in his district, and the way it would be broken up is 100. So rather than one per 500,000, it would be broken up 100 ways. There'd be 5,000. But then they'd still send one person to the Capitol to sit on a committee. So that still very well might be James Gallagher. However, James Gallagher would still have those 99 people back home, and they'd still have a vote. And then James Gallagher's a nice guy, but this is what it does. James Gallagher would not make 120 anymore, he'd make 80.
So we have James Gallagher and then 100 people and then us.
Yeah, and the 100 people,
So those 100 people, are they getting paid?
they get paid $1 a year.
What about expenses?
What's that? No expenses.
Are they elected? No.
Yes, they're elected. They're elected and they have a vote. So James Gallagher would still go to the committee, but when the committee, so think about this for example. When they passed that gas tax recently, most Californians did not want that, but they passed that in the Capitol with a 2/3 vote. So meaning that of them, the people in Sacramento, they overwhelmingly wanted it. But those of us out here in the rest of the state, other than at the Capitol, we didn't want it. And that wasn't a Republican Democrat thing. That was just the political class thought they knew what was best for us. And all the rest of us thought, no, we don't want this. And that was, Democrats even didn't want it. Republicans overwhelmingly didn't want it, and Democrats just marginally didn't want it, but nobody wanted it. So what the neighborhood legislature would do is it would give us a way to stop policies like that, because all of these representatives, all the people representing our communities, they all get to vote. There's a hand over there. Yeah, yeah. Oh. You can use mine.
Trying to follow protocol. Is there anything to indicate that the representatives would be bound to vote as the smaller neighborhood communities wanted them to, or are they independent?
The only thing really that binds them is that they're going to get voted out of office if they don't. But the difference is that with the campaigning, So the campaigning portion of all of this, right now when you campaign to, because you're kind of like, oh, well, that's not really going to happen. I mean, just looking at your body language, sounds like that's what you're thinking. So right now, incumbents almost never get voted out of office. Almost, yeah. They've done studies on that. They almost never get voted out of office. The reason for that is because we don't know them. They're not accountable to us directly. The differences with the people in the 5,000, the little districts, is they are accountable to us. And it's not, we don't just know them from these mailers that pop up in our, in our mailboxes that say like, Bob Smith is a great guy and he loves America and you should vote for him. But then his opponent pals around with Islamic terrorists or whatever. We get these mailers and we're like, well, his opponent sounds horrible, But with the small districts, you can actually see the person at your supermarket and you can actually interact with them. So if they're a dirtbag of a person, you're going to know that directly, and you can make an informed vote on that basis. And you can tell them off too, because you're going to see them around. Yeah.
Who elects James Gallagher? Who elects Who would it?
The 100, so she asked, who elects the person to serve on the committee? The James Gallagher? That's the 100 get together and they choose one from among themselves. And they can change their mind too. So if that person goes to Sacramento and they don't like what they're doing, they can change it.
Now, is this still going to be based on population?
Yes. Will it be based on population? Yes, absolutely.
The current problem we have now, where everything is controlled by the big cities that have absolute population control.
And that.
Percentage of the population, but that's the reason we currently have this mess. Is all the values that we have are reflected by LA and San Francisco.
So there's two aspects. There's two aspects of that, and for one, the Neighborhood Legislature helps, and for another, I'm going to take off my campaign hat and just say something else. So for first point is that what the Neighborhood Legislature does address, and what it would help with, is that your point is very valid. But as of right now, a county like Modoc, for example, doesn't have a representative at all. I mean, yes, they have a representative in El Dorado County a few hundred miles away, but they don't have a representative from Modoc. So under the neighborhood legislature system, they would have a representative from Modoc. So that's awesome, and that's something that it does positive for our communities, for the rural North State. However, and now like I'm just gonna pretend like take off my neighborhood legislature campaign hat and just say something as Eric. That there's still a reality of the fact that of those of us who live in the rural North State, there's about 2 million of us, and there, in my opinion, there's no real way to reform the government of a state with 40 million people, where we're 2 million to their 38 million, that's really going to make our government, as long as we're all part of the same state, reflect our values. Because we have a very unique culture in Marysville and Live Oak and Yuba City and Placer County and Modoc County and Siskiyou County and Redding and Chico. Like we like, not all of us, me though, and a lot of my neighbors, a lot of people I meet, you know, we like country music, we like pickup trucks, we're a little more religious, we go to church on Sunday, we love America, we fly our flags, and we're really proud of that. So I don't feel like our values and who we are is necessarily reflected. And that's not even to say because we're Republicans. We're not all Republicans. A lot of us are Republicans. I'm Republican. We're generally a conservative community and conservative culture, but we're a unique community. We're our own community. I like my neighbors that are Democrats and independents too, and I think I have more in common with them than, in my opinion, than I have with people either from San Francisco or Orange County, because we're a community and we have a unique way of life. And I think that there's only one real way for us to address that situation. And a lot of us are working on it. I've got a big yellow sticker on the back of my truck. Yes, sir. The answer is that it helps in the sense that rural communities would get a representative from their community. However, for us to really govern our own lives in the North State, I think that the state of Jefferson is the only real reform that would let us do that. Awesome. Yes. Okay.
Hey, Karen? Yeah, let's go through the mics.
Okay. What you were saying earlier about our voice does not make a difference at the Capitol, that is not true, because I've been there 4 years now, and I have seen the difference in the way that senators and assembly have voted since I started, because they all tell me the same thing. They appreciate me taking my time to go down there to pay attention to them, and they really appreciate that. So that comment, you may not believe it, but it's true. It does work if you go down there and take the time out to listen to them and to talk to them, because they take that time. But my question is, what has John Cox done for politics, for him to want to be the next governor?
So a couple of points. You're absolutely right. I shouldn't have made it sound like getting involved has no point at all. I mean, like I mentioned, we defeated the $3 billion electric car subsidy. So we do win sometimes, and it does matter, and that's wonderful that you have the patience to go and talk to those folks at the Capitol, because it does make a difference, and they're probably afraid of you too. I mean, really, like I know you're very like you don't really look intimidating, but what they do in that building, and when I've just observed it multiple times. I've worked there. Is a lot of times they'll have these ridiculous conversations, and they're afraid of somebody who can see the emperor who has no clothes that will actually call them out on it, because they know that a lot of the stuff that they're throwing out there is bogus, and so it does. So yes, and for those of you who didn't hear it, she was saying that when you go to the Capitol and talk to them, try to be nice, because that helps as well. That's absolutely true. But then your other question was just about John personally and what he's done politically.
I've never seen him at the Capitol, that's where I'm wondering, what is he really, his thoughts as far as being our governor?
So John is not a political guy. John's been involved in politics. He actually ran for U.S. Senate in Illinois a number of years back. So it's not that he's never done anything political before, but he's a businessman. He's been spending most of his time building up a $200 million business. And what a lot of people in America are saying right now is that we actually don't want people who've been part of politics for the last few decades, because we see where those people have gotten us. A lot of people now are electing fiscally conservative business people to run things. And it's not just on the national level, but also on the state level. There's even liberal states like Illinois and Maryland, and I think Massachusetts even, that have elected Republican business people in order to run things. So the idea is that I feel like the current political class, I think they've had their chance to address the issues at hand, and they've been an utter failure. So I think it's time for some people with some business knowledge, some people that can hold our bureaucracies and our out of control spending to account, and get some transparency in this messed up process we've got. All right. Any more? Oh, you've got.
Karen, people can't hear you unless you talk.
Well, I didn't have one. So what has he actually done for California that we should elect him, is what I'm saying, because Travis Allen is at the Capitol. He is very active at trying to correct the corruption there. So that, why would we vote for John Cox when we got Travis Allen already doing it at the Capitol?
You know,
What would be the
okay.
difference?
Well, I mean, you know, from what I've observed, you know, a couple of things. You know, it doesn't really seem that, you know, yes, Travis Allen is at the Capitol, and he's, you know, he's doing some things, but when I observe the state of affairs around me, it doesn't seem that those things have actually resulted in a betterment in my quality of life, or an end to some of these problems that I think are an issue for all of us. So that's one concern I have, and then the other concern is we need somebody who can win too. So we need to look at that. And John has I think he's up to over 2,000 individual donors. He's got over $3 million in the bank. He's put in a significant amount of his own money, but he's also got a significant amount of small individual contributors to his race. And you know, I don't want to. There's a lot I could say about Travis Allen, and I don't want to be impolite. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
John Cox isn't just another politician that's in power already.
Yeah, well, so let me just say, you know, Travis Allen and John Cox, I think we'd be much better off if either of them was to be elected governor. I think John is the better candidate. You know, that's my opinion. But I also think that either one would be a huge improvement over the governor we have now. All right. I think that looks like it wraps it up. So thank you so much.